Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Let me start as always. Everything is timing, and it's talk time with Tunde. Episode 4. Again, I was having a discussion just earlier with my producer, and I was like, Gary, bro, all of these sessions, I just feel I feel like I'm getting ready for a WBC fight against Jake Paul. I get so nervous. It's mad. It's like the guy was like, that's because you're out of your comfort zone. And listen, I think that we should all challenge ourselves to do things that we're not comfortable with. That's like facing your fears, and you overcome your fears, and you get more efficient with every time you tackle the task. So today we have another, and let me just say, it's so funny to me because the serious topics which really we should be talking about never get the most eyeballs and the most views, and that's always baffled me. When we start talking about nonsense, when we start talking about rapping and what have you, million views. But anything serious that in the real world, it seems like people want to take that. I don't know what color is it, Gary? Is it the red or the blue pill? I think it's the blue pill. I think people would rather take the blue pill and run away from real issues, and just live in the matrix where everything's all rosy, and so I'm always fascinated by the response or the viewing figures to subjects that actually matter. Anyway, today's subject, very important subject. Let me say hello to a few people online before I start. Daniel Grace, KSI, Sami Ali, Bobby Wright in the building. Daniel Grace, Spencer Fearon has been here from the start. He says this is a very, very serious topic, and I know he definitely has stories to tell and express with regards to the NHS and how they've treated him or his family in the past. Anyway, we always start with a short video, but the questions today are basically, nurses were set to strike today, but the strike action has been paused, while urgent talks take place. It would have included nursing staff from intensive care units, cancer care units, and other urgent services. Junior doctors are scheduled to strike on the 13th, 14th, and 15th of March. The question we ask is, as members of the public, we all have a say on how our tax should be spent. Is the NHS worth saving? That's question number one. When NHS doctors and nurses are striking over pay and hospital conditions, and waiting lists are getting worse, the question we need to ask is, should we save the NHS or just go private like they have done in America? This year marks the 75th anniversary of the National Health Service, also known as the NHS. The 1942 Beveridge Cross Party report established the principles of the NHS, which was later implemented by the Labour government in 1948. Launched by the then Prime Minister of Health, Aneurin Bevan, at the Park Hospital in Manchester. The road to providing good, strong, and reliable healthcare to all finally took its first steps.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Doctor's Note.
We are the early start. We are the beating heart, born to answer a call. We are healthcare for all. For the people, for the nation, no matter your means, no matter your station. An institution built on a constitution. Our existence, your welfare, respect, humanity, compassion, care. In 72 years we've come a long way. and there's still much to do, so we're here to stay. We are sons, daughters, husbands, wives, healing, supporting, saving lives. Someone you wished you'd never met, who becomes your best bet. We're a thank you letter for making a 4-year-old better. We're reward on every ward, gratitude that tells us we're valued. We're heroes who sometimes feel like zeros. We are literally blood, sweat and tears. That hasn't changed through the years. But we're not angels with wings. We're just ordinary people doing extraordinary things. We are emergency admissions, difficult decisions, clinician, precision, incision. We're podiatrists, therapists, orthotists, prosthetists, pharmacists, oncologists, psychologists, pathologists. We're technological advances for far greater chances. Fascination, exploration, innovation, inspiration, imagination, transformation, and worldwide admiration. We're pioneers. We're over 350 rewarding careers. We're your peers, doing something of significance that makes a real difference. Asking you to reach inside the depths of you, to find the truth of what you can do. Because we are you at your very best. We are the NHS.
So there, we have a brief look at the NHS and what they do for the people. I think the first question I want to attack this evening is the question of whether we feel the NHS should go private, just like America. And I've seen a few comments up here, Gary. Let's just address some of them first with regards to the NHS going private. Okay, Sami Ali says, I have many family workers who work in senior positions in the NHS and they feel overworked and undervalued massively. Let me just say also, Sami Ali, if you want to come in the chat, you don't need to show your face, but if you want to talk, because you're a young man with such a broad, a wide view and on everything, boxing, everything. This is you're just an intelligent young man. Just come in. Gary will put up the link. Put up the link, Gary, and for anyone who wants to come in the link and talk about their experiences in the NHS. Also, we're not here to bash the staff. Me personally, I feel that the NHS, when they're talking about going on strikes, which we will come to, I feel, you have to look at it from both sides because they have families, they've got to work, and, being overworked and underpaid is not a great thing. Lance Noor says, if healthcare system becomes privatized, the UK will be finished as a powerhouse. What do we think about that? I'm saying, we're saying that. So are you saying that? Yeah, thank you for putting up the link, Gary. So anyone who wants to come on, press the link. Give us stories, how you've been treated, how you feel your family's been treated. If you feel the NHS are doing a fantastic job, but they need help, what are the solutions going forward? Because we're about to go and, the nurses are going to strike. And you've already heard what sector are going to be striking. It's serious. It's the intensive care units are going to be striking. The cancer care units and other urgent services will be going on strike. That's coming. So we need to assist this. We need to find a solution. Lifestyle says, Tunde, the NHS will go private eventually. Reason why all these strikes are happening. Again, I need somebody to come back and forth with me and explain. Daniel Gray says, the NHS is just a political game now. No party will be brave enough to make the hard choices to completely reform and make it serve the public while ensuring staff are fairly paid. Well, if that's the case and nobody's going to step up to the plate, what happens when what happens when you have an accident, when you end up having to pay to deliver your child? which is something we're going to go into. When you have to pay, when you call the ambulance, you have to pay for the ambulance to come. And there's no getting away from it. And we've seen cases where people have lost their homes after loved ones have died because of medical bills. So is privatization the way we really want to go? Let's move on. Again, I'm waiting for someone to come on, talk about their experiences. Daniel Gray says going private comes with its own issues, but there would certainly be a lot less financial waste. Untouchable says, an untouchable. Health is the most important thing for everyone. The NHS is the best thing to come out of the UK, and every country is envious. I'm gonna clap. I'm definitely gonna clap for that, because very soon, very shortly, we'll be playing some videos, and you will see why we need the NHS. 99% of the people need the NHS. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to thank you, Untouchable, as well. He says big up Yard and his performance. Thank you very much, sir. Much appreciated. Bobby Wright, one of our most ardent family members. That's what you call. You don't call them friends or fans. You don't call them fans. This man is. You see him brandishing the Stamina for Sale tracksuit top. But Bobby, what's your view on the NHS? Thank you for joining us. Firstly,
yeah, no worries.
Yeah. So, go on.
Sorry, John. Sorry, yeah. So my views on the NHS. My mum went to New Orleans on holiday. It's a bit of a story. It's not an X Factor story. It's just this is what happened. So my mum went on holiday to New Orleans. She then had to come back for just keyhole surgery. She had gallstones had to get removed. Anyway, when she was in there, she caught a virus, which was but we didn't know at the time, but it was coronavirus. But it was in 2020, the back end of 2019, so November 2019.
Okay.
And then I come back, went for the operation Wednesday. I returned from work on the Friday, went to go and see her. And when I went into the hospital, I went like, where's my mum? This is the name, blah, blah, blah. They went, we've got some bad news to tell you. And obviously you think the worst, don't you? Obviously, if you go to hospital. I was like, where is she? She went, she's in ICU. And to me, I was like, what's ICU? I don't go to the doctors really, because I'm quite young. So I was like, what's ICU? Because they went intensive care unit. I was like, Jesus Christ, is she all right? They went, just come with me. And I was like, what's going on here? What's going on? Anyway, went up and they said that the team's working on your mum. I was like, she's only coming to get a gallstones removed. What's going what's going on? And it was there, and then as I walked in, when you have to find the vein in the neck. You know what I mean? So like there was jabbing her in the neck, and the body was like pumping out, and I was like, what? You know what I mean? And I was like, what's going on here? So I in all honesty, man, I'm not scared to say that I'm a grown man, but I got all upset and I thought the worst was going to happen. So not that I ran off, I just walked out the IC unit, intensive care. I walked out and I was like, what's going to happen to my mum? Because you know what I mean? You know my backstory anyway. Like my old man passed away and that. And I thought, not my mum now. I can't lose mummy. Yeah. Anyway, after that, I was like, what's going on? And because you want answers straight away, don't you?
Yes.
But the human body's like an amazing thing. It will heal itself eventually if your body's strong enough, etc., etc. But anyway, she was in hospital for a week. So initially, they found the vein. I went in. She was responsive. She then turned around and was like, "I'm not feeling well, Bob. I'm not feeling well." And I was like, "Come on, don't do this to me, Mum." She went, "I'll be okay." And your mum never ever tells you there's anything wrong with them today. They don't let you know what's going on with them really. Anyway, I went to see her, and then the following day, and then she had this mask on her face, and I was like, this is getting worse. Like, what's going on? So the NHS, at the time, I was like, what are you doing with my mum? What are you doing going off my nut? And then the next day, so this was on the Sunday, so it happened on a Friday. On a Saturday visit, she had a mask on. On a Sunday, I went in. They went, we're going to have to put her into an induced coma. I was like, why though? And because what they was explaining to me, like her lungs was all like hard. They had hard stuff on her lungs, and it was like, it's not pneumonia, it's not like all this medical stuff. What they were saying to me, I was like, okay, cool. I said, what is it then? And I couldn't explain it, and the reason being because coronavirus in 2019 wasn't actually a thing, was it? But in New Orleans, it was rife. You know,
That's what
like,
I was going to ask. So this was going on in America, right?
Yeah. No,
Okay,
sorry. She returned from America for keyhole surgery. So,
okay.
but when she returned, like coronavirus in UK wasn't a thing till like 20, like after January, wasn't it? Like we started hearing about it in China. But like when they did the tests on her to see what it was like later on, it generally it was corona, but the test come back coronavirus. Anyway, she put in a juice coma and what they did, they explained to me in simple terms, because I am a simple person. They said, we're going to put the body into a juice coma, not the body, your mum into a juice coma, to so the body's not overworking itself and stressing. So I was like, okay, and they sat me down and explained, and I was on the phone every couple of hours because I was panicking, obviously, and I was ringing my old dear, the nurse about my old dear and that. And then there was explaining, and you know what? She come out the other end. They explained to my mum what she needs to do to rebuild, like get her lungs back up to strength, and the treatment what they gave her, the NHS gave her, was unbelievable. And that's a positive story for me. And I know there's probably people on the chat where it hasn't worked out for them, you know. And I really feel bad. I generally feel bad for them people. But for me personally, the NHS did like a good thing for my family, you know. And so as much as we can say it doesn't work, they're overpaid and they're underpaid. Sorry, they're overworked. That is a fact. But I think that's in life in general. Like everyone's working twice as hard. The little with little workforce. I think every job's feeling that pain as well. I mean, unfortunately for me, Tunde, I can't go on strike with my job. I can't do that. We haven't got we don't have a union in the British Army, anything like that. So when these things are happening, like the ambulance driving, they're on strike. It's my boys and girls that are going to drive the ambulances. So then that's causing a strain on me because we've still got operations to deliver and support and that. You know what's going on with the world. I don't really want to say too much on camera, mate, but we all know what's going on. But like that's a strain on my workforce. But we have to support them. So it is. I don't. If I'm completely honest, Tunde, I think the NHS is a good thing, but something obviously does need to get the problem resolved. You know.
Yes, this is a fantastic story. One where you're supporting the NHS, and I mean I have my own personal views on it, and I'm gonna share my personal views as we move forward. But it's great. The where we stand now is that you have NHS workers, consultants saying just walking out because they're saying we just can't do this no more. So in a quick fire answer, what do you feel the solution will be to save the NHS, which basically save your mother?
So I don't think chucking money is the answer to everything. I don't believe chucking. I think time with people, like I don't know, like you know, I don't know if you had it at yours when you was younger, but at my school when we was a little bit naughty and we wasn't focused on our schoolwork, they put like apprenticeships on as we was like in the year 10s, 11s. So some of us have done plumbing, some of us done building, you know, stuff like that. But then what that did with us naughty kids, that set us up for like later on in life, you know. And there's people that I know who are still doing them trades today. I just believe like if we invest in the younger people, I mean that advert you put on earlier, I think that was a brilliant video to explain what the NHS do. You know, and as much as that was like what the NHS do, that's more of a recruiting video as well to people to join it. But how do people join something where the ship is sinking, you know? So I don't think the answer is money. I think it's time and investment and making people feel valued, you know. And strong management teams. That's what we need, strong management teams.
Yeah, I personally definitely feel we need money because these nurses, they all have families. And I think we're wasted. I think the government has spent money on lesser things.
But
The
yeah,
thing is that, as you said, it's one of them ones where we really have to look at the situation. I believe help more employment where these nurses and doctors are just not walking out and just leaving, because everyone's blaming everyone. And later on, we're going to show a video where the kind of abuse that NHS workers have to face by angry people who have not been treated as fairly as or as well as your mother has been treated. But thanks, Bobby. That's a fantastic story. That's a thumbs up for the NHS, just to show the NHS and any government officials that may be listening. We're not here to bash the NHS. we're here to get the solutions, and that's what it's about. But thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing it.
Sorry, quickly, Tun. When I said don't throw money at it, I just give the staff the money. Yeah, I agree that, but when a football team's going down the pan and we just took money on it and it doesn't resolve the situation. That's what I meant on that.
I like that analogy. Yes, 100%. All right, Bob. Stay online, but thanks for sharing your story. And please, Gary's put the link up there. Again, Gary, keep on putting that link up. Anyone else who wants to join us, carry on. But thanks, Bob. Just get back in the chat.
See you, mate. See you. Take
some more comments. Yeah. Again, fantastic stories. Someone who believes that we have to save the NHS. In his case, without the NHS, his mother wouldn't be alive. Moving on, the NHS has depended on the talents of its diverse workforce since its inception in 1948. This is a key pivotal year. The same year, passengers of the HMT Empire Windrush, and I know that word is familiar to a lot of Caribbeans. The Empire, I'm going to say again, the same year, 1948, when the NHS was launched, the passengers of the MHT Empire Windrush disembarked on the port of Tilbury on the 22nd of June. Many of the passengers came to work for the NHS and are part of the NHS's history. Dr. Evans said that the Windrush generation has been fundamental to the NHS since its founding, having been invited from the Commonwealth countries, especially in the Caribbean, to help fill labour shortages in the UK from 1948 to 1973. Ever since, they formed an essential part of the workforce and the communities. Excellent video there. Slight comment, because a lot of people don't realize, a lot of these youngsters, and again, some beautiful pictures there, showing you how multicultural this country is, and how we're all in this together. We're all in this together. Everyone's played a part. We all pay our taxes, and we just have to try our best to bring back up this NHS to the point where people, my own personal father is over here from Nigeria. He'll be going back next month. But he said, he went down to, he phoned me, he said, son, what's going on? I went down to the doctor's surgery. They're telling me I've got to look online. So my dad's still, Gary, my dad's still thinking you just walk into the surgery. I'm like, Dad, it's not like that no more. You have to book. It's, and you may not see the doctor. Some waiting lists are a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. This is bad. let's put up some views here from the Talk Time community, gal. Daniel Gray says the example of the inefficiency. A few years ago, the NHS was paying more for gauze than the public could buy it from Boots. That should not be possible. Gauze is that's the like a bandage, right? If I'm not mistaken. But he said a few years ago the NHS was paying more for gauzes than the public could buy it from Boots. That's crazy. That's crazy. Manny Betford says the NHS is a black hole when it comes to money, but normal folk don't get any value for that money. Okay, I hear what you're saying. Again, I think you'll be interested to see, even though you're saying we don't get value for the money, we do get something. It may not be what we want, it may not be necessarily what we need right now, but we are getting something. The thing is that what more can we do to help this situation and stop these nurses and doctors from going on strike? Lifestyle says people are struggling to pay bills. Is a very good point. People are struggling to pay bills and put food on the table. These are professionals working people too. So how will they be able to pay for healthcare? Even firefighters are going on strike. And this striking business is having an effect on everyone. That's what the issue is. The government, this is what we're looking for. You know, Talk Time with Tunde is never about pointing the finger. It's about the solutions. What do we feel that? I want to hear the stories because hopefully someone would hear our show. And really, you know, if we're talking about it, at least that's some movement. Lifestyle said the NHS and firefighters going on strike. What's going on? These are professional working people who save lives. So what does happen? What does happen when they go on strike? What happens when these nurses go on strike? What can we do? We understand they're professional people, but what can we do to help them? What is the answer? What is the immediate answer? Okay, Dr. Gyal is even saying you have to compete to see a GP nowadays. So what does that mean for the poor? Let's not sugarcoat it. What does it mean for the poor? You know, you've given people, as you say, it was established in 1948 with the help of a lot of cultural, people. And now we cannot get those services. People are becoming more ill. It's so funny, but when I look in shops, when I look in food shops and that, I'm seeing more bad food, more sugar. That's going to make you ill. So now, when you're catching diabetes and that, and you need certain treatment, you can't even get it again. So this is I think health should be at the forefront of the government's things to deal with. Yep, Gary, Sami Ali has said, Tunde, a lot of people governing get paid a lot of money and don't do much. It's funny how people get paid close to 6 figures to talk BS and ruin our economy. Sammy, tell the people how old you are, because I keep telling people the wisdom comes from the young sometimes. Lifestyle says, Tunde, the answer is to pay them what they deserve. Here. Pay the people what they deserve. If we want to help, obviously money's got to come from somewhere. You can't just create money from the sky. But if there's money going over there, the money needs to come back in here. Because let's get it right. These people striking love their job, but they cannot continue. So they're seeking other side hustles. You know, they're not walking out of the NHS to do nothing. They're going to look for something that's going to be able to pay the bills. And that's a massive, massive issue. But lifestyle, I definitely agree with you that, as I said, it's all money. Everything is money. Take Me Back Pirate Radio Archive says, strikes are the last resort when the government isn't listening. How many new hospitals have been built? It costs 32k a year to study medicine, and that's for a Brit. I often wonder that as well. Like, all these new buildings are getting built, but the staff ain't getting paid. So like it's coming like slavery. It's like you're asking people to do more, but then you're charging them more to live. The cost of living is rising. The interest rates are rising. Like this is where I need help. I need solutions on this thing. Sammy Ali said Australia and America pay doctors 3 to 4 times what the UK pays. Okay, I hear that point, and they should do, because you're going to be hearing some interesting information as we move further. I think we can move forward. The current state of the NHS. Today, the NHS faces many challenges. Chronic understaffing, staff shortages is the biggest threat to the NHS. This often leads to frustration and has caused a rise in abuse towards NHS staff. And now we're going to see a short video highlighting some of the abuse that these NHS workers who need help. You need to hear and see the abuse, what they are taking, to let you understand how serious this matter is. And it's something that we all have to get behind, along with so many other issues dealing with the treatment of NHS staff. And should it be privatized? Is that a way? Does the NHS work? But anyway, let's look at this short video on how NHS staff are treated, or some of them are being treated.
You should be ashamed to call yourself a nurse. You just don't get. It's the nurses running the asylum in there. These are nothing but a bunch of.
You're the doctor, I'm the patient, I can speak to you however I want. So he got out of his chair, went right up to my face and said, I'm going to smash your face in.
Myself has just got a bad eye because of this vaccine.
You listen to me, you NHS.
I mean, I don't even believe that COVID exists. Are you going to inject me with a blood clot just now?
Call yourself a caring profession? You don't care at all. I hope this happens to your child.
The reason you've got such a big queue outside is because you're taking too many tea breaks.
He said to his wife, Granny, is that a his name? She says, aye, she'll be married to a.
It's your fault. I don't want your vaccine.
When one of the partners passed away suddenly, a patient snarled that I had not to use that doctor's death as an excuse for not being able to give him an appointment that day.
You take your name and I'm going to get my family to sue you whenever I die after this vaccine.
It's your fault if I die.
This ain't good, people. I'm being honest with you. And as we've seen, many of our parents and their parents work for the NHS. And can you blame them walking out? You know, me personally, they don't deserve this kind of treatment. And as In the House, I think In the House said, no, not In the House. I think this In the House is someone who has to get blocked, from what I can see, Gary. Block him. In the House, yeah, you're gone. There's always one in it. But yeah, moving swiftly on. This is the point. This is absolute comedy. Sorry, people. I got to draw for the tissue. Baffle, you don't get it. You just don't get it. If you were on the show a few minutes ago, you would understand what I'm laughing about. But anyway, let us carry on. So there we see that the NHS staff are going through. The NHS staff are going through trouble themselves. I mean, after giving their time, their energy, they're having to deal with abuse from the public. So again, we have to look at it from both sides of the coin and just say to ourselves, they obviously need help. And what is the answer? Let me just go out and read out some more issues and in the current state of the NHS. The 25th of November 2022, the Royal College of Nursing announced its first strike in its 106-year history. Increased waiting times. A&E, a record 350,000 patients in England waited more than 12 hours to be admitted to hospital from A&E last year, compared to 1,306 in 2015, 8,270 in 2019 before the COVID pandemic hit. By 2022, the number of patients left waiting more than 12 hours to be admitted reached 347,700, or almost 1,000 patients a day. This made up 6% of patients admitted in the emergency last year. Ambulance response times in December 2022, the average response time for people requiring an ambulance for a stroke, severe burns, or chest pains was 93 minutes, 5 times the operation target of 80 minutes. So basically, you don't want to have no stroke, because it's taken up to 1.5 hours to see. I'm reading something, and now I'm reading comments. It's taking basically 1.5 hours to get an ambulance. So again, is the NHS worth saving, or do we have a case where we just privatize it? Please continue to put your comments, views, share your stories, and how the NHS has treated you. Gary, let's put these comments up, please. 84 Boxing says, you have to be a real scumbag to speak to doctors and nurses in that way. I agree, because they're trying their hardest to serve us, but you can't continue to make them, the scapegoat, really, and be spoken to the way they're being spoken to. Take Me Back Pirate Radio Archive says, there has been planned collapse of services in order to say it's not working so they can privatize the NHS. Yeah, but is privatization a good thing? I personally don't think it is, because most people can't afford. But is it a case that we should just be happy with what we've got? Or is it a case where the government need to pump more money into the NHS so that these nurses and doctors can pay their bills? Dutty Guy said, when the NHS goes, healthcare for the poor will be non-existent. And that's it. Manny Beckford said, that's it now. It's gone now. And I guess, and tell me something, is it me, or is it, when they say private, like you got in your doctor's surgery, you got the NHS. But hold on, when you say you're going private, it's the same doctor. You see in the same doctor, Gary. Ain't you seeing the same doctor in the same something? But one is saying it's private and one is saying it's NHS. I don't know. Maybe someone can share that with me. Leah O says, too many people slip through the net with privatization, and I definitely have to agree with that. There'll be more people suffering from privatization than there would be benefiting from privatization. Daniel Grace, I see something there. Yeah, certain services, private hospitals will send you to a regular hospital. Okay. Yeah, because I never understand it. Like, it's like my dentist, which I pay a lot of money for, they do NHS in the same thing. But I guess it's a case of waiting time, right? Maybe I'm right, or maybe I'm wrong, but I guess it's a case of waiting time. AA Act says healthcare for the poor functions in many countries that don't have an NHS for people automatically. Think of America, which is the worst of all systems. And this is a point which we are coming to, is that if you look at what we are being given in this country compared to America, you need to see what's going on in America. And then it also shows us how we have to support the NHS as Bobby Wright says, if we want to continue to hear good cases where, like his mother, then we have to pump into the NHS. It's a big case. Watch the Box says, you do normally get NHS doctors because private hospitals use contractors and doctors to hire the room, although you get a better customer service and care. Again, the question is, who can afford this? How many people can afford to go private? I don't know. And if there's so many people in one box, then even on a private service, because I've got friends who were paying Bupa, and they're telling me that when they're paying it monthly for years, and when it actually comes to getting this service, it really is not that much difference. So is privatization the way forward? 84 Boxing says, in America, I think they leave you on the streets unless you have insurance. And that, I think, leads us into the next video. So let me, Bobby Wright said Ben Oldham can afford it. But there's not many Ben Oldhams. He's worked hard. Remember, the government, the Prime Minister was asked, is he on the NHS? By Laura Kusenberg. I watched the clip today, and he was there dilly-dallying. He didn't want to answer, so Laura was on him. Laura was like, do you use the NHS or not? And he was skirting around the question. He didn't ask the question in the end. It was on Sky. It was about a month ago. But he has since come out and says that he uses NHS. But my thing is, why didn't you answer there and then? And why don't you just be like Margaret Thatcher? And basically, when people work their whole life, create a thing for them, then they shouldn't be ashamed to say they use the private healthcare system. I don't think you should be ashamed. So I don't know what the Prime Minister was skirting around the question for. But anyway, moving forward, let's move on to, I think, our final video, which is, what is the alternative? Do we want to privatize the healthcare system? Privatized systems depend on users to have health insurance. The poor often slip through the net, which was what Leah O just said, and insurance companies notoriously seek loopholes to renege on payouts. Again, that's what I'm trying to say. So you be paying all this money, and then there's some kind of twist or turn, like you didn't see the doctor on this appointed time, so that, we're not giving you this amount of money. Like I've heard all these stories. So even privatization, as much as we're talking about it, even that may not necessarily be the answer. I don't think it is, because, as I say, most people will suffer because they can't afford the services. If a quick look at some of the costs in the United States healthcare system will prove this. Gary, play the next tape.
10 grand for a baby.
Is there a price for that?
Yes.
Jeez, $100, $200?
$2.5 grand.
$80.
600.
250.
More.
Shut the fridge.
More.
£300.
$600.
$600.
Yeah. Ambulance call out. How much do you think that costs?
Zero payment.
Zero payment?
Yeah, zero payment.
No. It costs $2,500.
For real?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
you look. An inhaler.
$100.
Yeah, you're pretty close. It's a bit more.
120.
250 to 350.
For an inhaler?
Yes.
Man, so if you're poor, you're dead.
I know that it's like public healthcare in the UK. In the US, fortunately, I'm able to get healthcare through my parents, their jobs, but like I carry an EpiPen, and I know that like the cost of that has just been rising. So like there's like very few companies that even compete, so it's sort of like a monopoly for the EpiPen. Even though like we have insurance, it costs my parents about a couple hundred, even with insurance.
So again, we have to look at this and really try to keep this, in my opinion, try to keep this healthcare system, this NHS going. Because you heard them say people paying $300 for an inhaler. And I think Gary didn't play that part of the video, but I think to get an ambulance out, it's $500. So when you're at home, just think about it. When you're at home in your home in the UK and something happens and you call the ambulance, it's $500. That's £500. No, 2K. Wait, hold on. 2.5K for an ambulance. Is that what that was? Oh my goodness gracious me. So think about this, people. The government needs to hear our voices loud and clear. Because if anybody has an issue, you think about what's going on in America. That's serious. And I think we didn't play it, but to actually give birth to a child in a hospital, Gary, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they're saying they want 30K to give birth to a child. I want all the baby mothers, all the women with children to think about that. All the women who have 6, 7, and men, because it takes 2 to tango, who have 6 children, 5. Well, all those come from 5 siblings. We've got 5 siblings, 4 siblings. 5 times 20K, that's 100 bags. That's £100,000 for your parents to give birth to your child. And I think they say it's more to actually hold the child when the child's born. Like hold your own child in your hand. 100 bags for a birth. Yeah, you heard what I'm saying. It's mad. It's mad. So we got to protect this NHS as far as I'm concerned, because I've only got one child. Thank God, his mother gave birth when this weren't going on, because it's like 84 boxes and he's turning his garage into a maternity clinic because it's money. It's money. So this is what I was saying, Bobby, right? We these nurses and doctors, money has to be the first does and dry bags. The NHS needs help. The government needs to help support these workers that they can give us service. Let me just give you some highlights and stats of how the situation in America. Half of US adults do not have $500 disposable income to cover unexpected medical bills. Now think about that. Think about that. They don't even have that in a bank account. So they can't even call an ambulance. So boom, we know shootings and what have you happen regular in America. You ain't calling that. Now I get why when you're watching them American films, why the people drive the victim to the hospital. It makes sense now, Gary. You know what? I used to say, what? How come they're always driving? Where's the ambulance? Now it makes total sense. Yeah, now I'm because unless you're educated, you see things, you don't really know what's going on. But in the films, I always say that they're driving them to the hospital. It's because the medical bills are so high. To call an ambulance out, it's so high. So think about that, people in the UK. Do you want to? Yeah, you see, everyone's saying the same thing now. It makes sense when you're watching the films. It makes sense. Leah said you have to hold your bullets. Trust me, because 2.5 bags to call out an ambulance. It sounds crazy, but this is a possibility. It could happen here if we don't get a hold of what's if we don't get a hold of what's going on. Anyway, 58% bills sent to collection services are medical debt. Are you listening? This is in the US. 1 in 5 adults are on a payment plan to cover medical bills. Bobby Wright, thank you for your $4.99. He says the country is in a mess, but we have to back the NHS. Following the American system is not the answer. And I know everybody on here, anybody who watches this, will be clinging on to the NHS service. And this is what potentially is coming. If we don't get a hold of this, take me back. If we don't get a hold of this, this is what I'm the messenger. I'm blowing the trumpet to show people that don't just take this issue for a joke. Don't just, oh yeah, the NHS is always going to be there. Because this is what's going to be happening. And you already know, downtown, on ends, whatever you want to call it, the inner cities, London, Manchester, all of these environments where bad things happen on a regular basis. Think about the services your children, and then you have the natural causes, what people are affected by. The NHS, we need to, I'm saying it now, I'm giving my piece. Regardless of what bad has happened in the NHS or some bad stories, we need to support the NHS and think about what we have here. Hell, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't even know. I'm even Sammy Ali, I don't know what you're talking about. But Tunde, I don't know. If it does change, I know what profession I'm going into. Yasin A says, this is the realness of the whole matter. Trill Balling isn't. I think that's right. It says a lot of people get confused by the word private. The NHS offers private services that help fund the free ones. Most people privately buy paracetamol without batting an eyelid. Yeah, I definitely hear that. I definitely hear that. But there's a big difference than paying 59p for your Tesco's paracetamol than paying 2.5 grand to call out an ambulance. That's big. You can't just go into the Tesco's or Waitrose and pick up a paracetamol or ibuprofen. You can do that. That's normal. That's standard. We can do that. You know, that again, maybe that is fair. You know, when you look at the other systems, that's fair. But when you start going deeper and the real problems that are affecting, that we're going to be affected, that we're affected by now, you hear that? Okay, the NHS pays more for paracetamol than Tesco's. Well, then, again, it's the same thing. The government need to help the NHS. The government, that's what I'm saying. Maybe I'm not educated enough to understand, but to me, I know everything is not always money. Obviously, we need to have good nurses doing their job properly, wanting to do the job, love the job. And then obviously, no good paying them all their money. They don't want, next thing they're operating on your loved ones and they're budging up the surgery. So yes, there has to be more going into it. Dottie Gal, she says, I saw one documentary where an IT guy in the US on good money was made homeless because of crippling medical bills. He had heart problems. I saw the same thing. I saw the same thing today. I think it's the same thing I saw today. The guy was on the street and he was talking his truth, telling his story. Same thing. Let me continue. 1 in 5 adults are on a payment plan to cover medical bills. 1 in 10 owe a friend or a family member for medical bills. This is in the US. This is what's coming if we allow the NHS to go in the way of privatization and the way of the American system. 1 in 7 people with debt have been denied access to medical care. I'm going to say that again. 1 in 7 people with debt have been denied access to medical care. Listen. More than 60% of bankruptcies are related to medical bills. And this is a state of affairs, ladies and gentlemen. We hit the 1 hour mark. We're going to continue just reading off some final comments. And as I said, I'm always more about solutions than just, we know what the problems are. We feel we know what the problems are. What we want to do is try to figure out something we can do. What can we do? You know, from what I'm gauging, the people generally want the NHS to be saved, but at the same time, you know, the nurses and the doctors have their own thoughts and their own opinions as well, and they're finding it very, very difficult, and also dealing with a lot of abuse. Leah O, let me read this comment properly. She said, Leah O says, the cost to set up a system like the NHS now is inconceivable. for any global government. We are lucky it's already established and it needs to be protected. Once lost, it will never come back. I'm gonna say that again. The cost to set up a system like the NHS now is inconceivable for any global government, Labour, Conservative, whatever party. It's inconceivable. It ain't gonna happen. We are lucky it's already established and it needs to be protected. Once lost, it will never come back. Simply meaning that we got work to do. We got to put this thing out there where we can save these workers. Because I watched a YouTube video today on a nurse. Literally, she's one of the most qualified people you ever know in Scotland. All the qualifications, she's done all the courses, and she just said that she just went into work one day, just paused for a hot minute, just turned around, picked up her bag, and she said she ain't never coming back. She just cannot continue like this in the NHS. And that's what's happening. And that's what's happening. So, you know, I don't know if standing outside Parliament and shouting is the way that or what we have to do, but I think more people need to speak up about this. You know, this is why platforms like this were built. Can we just take a second to remember last week's guest, Tatiana? Imagine how much her medical care would have been with what she went through. My God Almighty, Gary Blake, the man behind the cam. I'm gonna read that again. We need to think about it, because these people have come on Talk Time with Tunde, and just think, we went through her story, her horrific but uplifting story last week, and what she had to overcome and go through in hospital with the doctors and what have you. Laying in a hospital bed, it's money in America. So all these things. So Gary says, can we just take a second to remember last week's guest, Tatiana? Imagine how much of her medical care would have been with what she went through. And that is a fantastic comment, Gary. Very, very, very thoughtful. Take Me Back Pirate Archive said petitions help. Okay. You know, that's something. Bobby at Harvey at Take Me Back, real talk. No country to build this from scratch in this climate. Yep. And again, we've seen collectively, we've all helped build the NHS since 1948. We cannot let this slip, because as one person said earlier on, a lot of countries are jealous. A lot of people have come to this country. I'm not saying, but a lot of our parents who have gone home are just coming home, come back here for NHS medical services. Because with all the nice life they're living back home and the sunshine and everything, they're not getting the services. They're coming back to get NHS services. It's facts. AAC says, look at all countries whose healthcare works. Australia, Singapore, Netherlands, etc. all have private healthcare systems. They're just not like America. That's interesting. I don't know too much about that. I don't know how, I don't know how things work in Australia, Singapore, Netherlands. I'm only talking about what I know and what we can see. So it'd be interesting to know how the healthcare system works for private. Again, different climate, and I do believe maybe the pay is fair. Maybe they're not dealing with so much people in one place, because I don't know. Obviously, there's poor people all over the world, but in this UK here, the problem is immense, and that's what I know. And if we can't afford just a normal to eat, we said the question the other day. We have a choice now of heating or eating. So if we're having to choose between heating and eating, we know that health is wealth. We need good food to keep our bodies running nicely. So now to lose the NHS, to make it private, in a climate where everybody seems to be feeling the pinch, I think it's just going to be even worse. Leah O said, Tati herself told us her US counterparts don't get any I can never say that word, procephasis. There you go. Tati herself told us her US counterparts don't get any procephasis. I think that's right. I think I'm saying it right. But we, again, sometimes you have to say to yourself, we are very fortunate in the UK to have the NHS, and the question is, what we can do to save it, and should it be privatized? I haven't seen that much people saying that it should be privatized, which leads me to believe that people generally are in favor of the NHS, but just we don't want a situation where these nurses, and it seems like everybody's going on strike nowadays, and that's not a good sign. It's not a good sign. What are we going to do to protect the NHS system? Take Me Back Pirate Radio Archive says, you have had a system like the NHS to help us, and people rely on it. And then you sweep away, and then to sweep it away cruelly is criminal. I've got to agree with you. Take Me Back Pirate Radios. Evening videos of you. You've missed a very serious topic this evening, with a little bit of comedy. With a little bit of comedy, which will be deleted. Gary, straight as soon as you get off, Gary, boom, delete. But anyway, Daniel Barr says, Tunde, thank you for this topic. I literally had a roller coaster of a time in my stay in hospital. It was really eye-opening, and all I will say is it wasn't pretty, but there are good nurses and doctors. And Gary, don't even start, bro. Yeah, there are good nurses. And listen, every single nurse that I've seen, that I've come across, and doctor, the stories that I've heard, of the feeling, what the energy, what I'm getting from it, there are good people. And I say a lot of our grandmothers, grandparents were in that nurse. My mother came over, she studied nursing, and she was working in Dulwich Hospital. So it's all something I feel that has affected us, and we can go on forever. We know what needs to be done, or we think we know what needs to be done. The doctors and the nurses need to be paid sufficiently where they can do their job like they want to do it, which is helping. To help another is a serious thing. A few more. Tunde, oh yeah, I've said that. Tunde, thank you for the topic. Yep, I've read that. Lifestyle says, everybody in the country needs to get behind the NHS. See, this is positive. They only save lives, but they also save yours. Eventually, the NHS will crash. That's the direction it's heading for those who are wise enough to know. It seems like you could be right, lifestyle. Because what is gonna how is a country that my dad once said was the best country in the world? That's what my dad used to say. Now my dad can't wait to get back home. Like, what has happened? Something's gone wrong somewhere. People have the fat cats just become so greedy, they literally really don't care about anyone under a certain level. If that's the case, that just ain't right. It just ain't right. And it's just going to get worse and worse, because the voice of the people, as my dad always used to say, the voice of the people is the voice of God. So if so many people are complaining, if the nurses and doctors themselves are now saying enough is enough, we're striking, we're walking out, then we have a very, very serious issue. It's 10 past. All right, we're gonna go 5 minutes more, and then that's it. It's supposed to lock off at 9, but we're cheating again because I had a little bit of a mishap earlier on. Have I read that? Yeah, I've read that. Okay, True Balling Isn't says, to have the NHS you need. To have an NHS you need is a social democratic system that redistributes taxes to the public services like schools, roads, and hospitals. The taxation leads to a kitty, and that kitty is limited. This is serious comments coming up here. Serious comments. You know, we talk about taxation and distribution and schools. But is it, I always say to myself, okay, so you deal with a health issue. Then you got the school issue. You deal with the school issue. Then you got the, another issue. Like, isn't it a case of we have to address the most serious problems first? The government have to address the most serious problems first. I'll be honest with you. I'll be the first. I don't even know what Brexit is. I'm just like, someone needs to explain what that is to me. I'm just naive. I don't even know what it is. So all I know, there's a lot of issues going on in this world, and health, even if you're educated, uneducated, everybody knows that health is the paramount thing in this life of ours. Health is wealth. So therefore, if the NHS cannot survive, what happens to everyone else? Old type Marcel Lawrence, she says, Brexit messed us up. I don't even know what it is. I don't even know what it is. Maybe we're gonna have a discussion about Brexit, because I don't know where it is. I mean, I'm living in the clouds most times. So again, this is why we actually started this topic, these topics and the discussion, so we can all have a talk and all be educated. You definitely know what Brexit is. I don't, Gary. I'm not even joking. I don't even know what it is. I'm telling you. All right, cool. I'm telling you the honest truth. I do not know what it is. I've not. Okay, we left the EU. Well, what does that mean? I don't even know what that means. I actually don't know what that means. I'm in here. I'm not in the EU. I'm not in Europe. So I don't even know. Anyway, yes, the NHS is still worth saving, but we have to get a government that is going to put structure in. And Master, you know what? Again, I'm not a politician. I don't claim to be a politician. I know that much about politics. But one thing I do is I've always got my ear to the ground, and I listen to, you hear the certain noise which you can't avoid. And forgive me, is it just me? But I always hear the same thing. We need to get a government in. We need to get a government in. We need to get a government in. Then that government comes in, and then they say we need to get a new government in. It's like, I don't know what this is. I spoke to a young man the other day, and he was like, I just need to get out of this country, because it's just that everything has just gone down the drain. That's a young person. So, I mean, all we can do is try. All we can do is continue to talk about these issues, and hopefully, words are powerful. Hopefully something will be done. The NHS will be saved from privatization, because I don't believe, and a lot of people don't believe here, privatization is the way forward. But something definitely has to be done, and we just can't sit and say nothing. Master says we have a government, but someone is going to bring structure. But I thought that's what governments are supposed to do. I used to watch like little clips of the Houses of Parliament, and it just seemed like the man's just in there cracking joke. I keep on hearing him. That's why I'm just being honest with you. That's why I don't take politics serious. Because I've watched Gary go and tune in and watch the Houses of Parliament. You just see people laughing and cracking jokes. I'm like, hold on. You man are in this place here, this building here, cracking jokes, and you got people suffering on the roads, in the streets. So I just don't know how serious this thing is. I don't know how serious the people are taking these subjects. Yeah, man's in there having social needs up. It's a fact. All right, you don't think I'm joking. Go and watch an episode, because it's still on TV, of Houses of Parliament discussion. I just don't see them being serious. Like, there's serious topics. So many topics that have to be dealt with. But healthcare and the NHS is definitely the main one. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to sign off in a few words, as I always do. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Let me just say thank you to everyone that has joined us this evening. Forgive me for my little outburst there. Davanis Bankitas. I've seen that name before. Hey Tunde, I'm a 24-year-old nurse. I graduated 2 years ago and started working in the NHS not long ago. What's your experience been Dovanis, do you want to come on and tell us, how it's been? That'd be good. Put up the link. Maybe Dovanis will press the link and just tell us of your experiences in the NHS and how you're finding it thus far. Please, this will be good, Dovanis. You don't need to show your face if you don't want to. We won't put the camera on. We'll turn the camera off and then just hear you talk. It will be great. Gonna give you a few minutes, and if you don't want to talk, just let us know so we can just end the show. But it would be good to hear from. Can we do teams going forward? What's teams? I don't know. Again, you have to ask Gary about that. Gary is the technical man. Gary says no teams straight. So I don't know what teams are, but we ain't doing it because Gary's the man behind the cam, and he wants to keep this platform. Creed 3 yards stops Michael J and B Jordan. Okay, cool. All right. Well, easier for people to talk and see people. But yeah, Marcia, there's an option here. Bobby Wright was on earlier on. I just feel people are shy and don't want to talk. But we have to talk up. The voice of the people is the voice of God. And some of you don't believe in God, but let's just say the voice of the people carries weight and doesn't stream. Teams doesn't stream to YouTube. And that's another reason why we don't use Teams. So it's not easier for people. It's easy here. StreamYard is an easy platform to people talk. We have guests on every week. When we have our boxing shows. So if you want to come on. The link's there. All you got to do is press the link. Marcia, let's go on. Let's give us some views on the NHS and how you find the system, what you can do or what can be done to save our NHS. Do you feel it needs saving? We can always extend the time. Gary has put the link up there. We don't need to go to Teams. StreamYard is sufficient. So lifestyle, big up. Said big up Tunde, great show and topic. Really enjoyed it. Blessings. Thank you. Daniel Barker says, you know what? I found out most of the nurses in the NHS are from agencies. Someone was telling me this the other day. Okay, Master, you're ready. You press that thing. Press the link and it will come in. Most of the nurses, I found out most of the nurses in the NHS are from agencies, but it's not just for money. Trust me, guys. I do, again, that's facts. It ain't. There are people out there that really want to help. But when it's come to the point and the situation where they're saying, no, this is too much now. The pressure, the stress, the workload is just too much. And that's what I'm saying. I don't even think giving them more money is good. Because, all right, you give the nurses more money. You don't increase the workforce. But you give them more money. So now you've got nurses that's working all 36 hours. 36 hours. And then they're going to operate on people. It's going to mash up the operation. You get what I'm saying? So we need a greater workforce. And it's good that we got someone like Dovanis, a young man who has just joined the NHS. Again, I ask you to come on. Marsha is there. Let's go. Press the link. Daniel, exactly. You see what I'm saying? It ain't just, that's what, I think that's the point Bobby was saying. Money, yes, money's good. Look at this, I'm carrying on the thing now. We're supposed to lock off, but sorry, I'm carrying on the show. We're supposed to end. Sorry, sometimes it just comes out like, I just think I'm talking to Gary. But yeah, Gary putting in a graph, as always. Daniel Gray says, I don't think any party would dissolve the NHS. Again, I don't know about that, Dan. And moreover, to private healthcare, it would be political suicide that the party would never be elected again. We say that, but it's choices, isn't it? There's only a few to choose from. OTC is in the building. OTC is off the canvas boxing. Good evening, sir. The man with a... Hey, I hope you ain't got no monkey nuts chewing around there, Because we ain't forgot that when we caught you on the air eating monkey nuts. Everyone's parents loves monkey nuts. Come on. All right, what are you saying, bro?
I'm all good. I'm all good. I'm loving the show as well. And yeah, this is a topic that I thought, you know what, I could probably add some level of value to it, because you said does the NHS worth saving, and should we go private in comparison to the to the US and the the UK NHS. Now, I happen to stay in hospital both UK and in the US, and I stayed in the so in terms of experience, I can clearly see a big contrast between the pair of them. Now, with the NHS and the growing population, it's very difficult to have it free of service forever. At some point, we're going to have to make it privatized, because the country doubles. Let's say I don't know, every person here has about 2-3 kids amongst themselves, and the country doubles. The resources that we have here, we won't be able to have the capacity to have the NHS on free unless everyone's paying super enormous taxes. So at some point, we're going to have it privatized in some way, shape, or form. Now, with that, and here's the thing: there's a lot of people who use the NHS and they abuse the NHS. In a sense, where I was at Newham General Hospital, and I was like, I was getting drip. I suffered from cancer. I was getting, I think it's chemotherapy treatment at that period of time.
Say that again. Don't rush. Don't fly past that. You suffer from.
I suffered from a rare cancer called nasopharyngeal carcinoma. So it was a rare cancer. I was in hospital for chemotherapy, had a few complications. So I was literally in hospital, with numerous hospitals in the UK and in the US, for the duration of about a 6-month period of time in end of 2016, early 2017. And when I was in the UK, and this is not something that was in the US, there was people who effectively didn't have a place to stay, that were ill, but they just needed that support at home. So it was like people who just rebounded from home or care homes to the hospitals, and had they had that support around them, they probably would not have used the NHS. There was people drunk at night using the NHS, people on substances using the NHS, people who have used and abused their body and using the NHS. And so I think that if we want to make it free for all, that's fantastic. But if there's a growing population of people who are using alcohol abuse and drug abuse, and the mental health is on the rise, it's very difficult to look after all of these people. And therefore, at some stage, and maybe this might not be what people want to hear, but at some stage, in my opinion, if you want to look after all of these people, you might have to do it private.
That is, you know what? That's again, you've put a different perspective and a different look in it, and that's great, OTC, because you have to think about that one. We cannot. It's not going to continue free, because I was always taught nothing's free anyway. So with the rising population, Javinder Suri, this brother looks like utter crap. I want to see. Guy, I'm not too sure about this Javinder Suri. Nah, my energy don't move to him. Just block him, I beg, please. Block him. Yeah, he's gone. My energy. I just looking at his picture, and you're gone. Anyway, as I was saying, we don't play around here. It's so dirty, girl. Don't worry. If my energy don't connect with you, you're gone. You don't even need to say nothing. I just need to feel. I'm reading names. If I feel anything, because you know me, my body's clean to feel any negativity, I will block you instant. So, Mr. Suri, see you later, mate. Anyway, I'm saying that I didn't actually think of it like that, but right on the spot. You're right. It is. I think it's something that will eventually happen. But for now, what would you say the immediate solution should be or could be?
In terms of the NHS pay, what should it be? It's a tough ask, because I think it just needs more funding overall.
Yeah, sorry there. Sorry. It's not free. I'll call you. I spoke to somebody today as well. They said the same thing. The NHS is not free. I'm already paying contributions deducted for my wages. That's true. But yeah, go on. Sorry.
Look, look, the only thing that really can happen is more funding. In terms of the NHS and where they use their money, it actually is a very efficient model in terms of they use their money very resourcefully. The issue is that they don't get enough funding. It doesn't mean that they don't get a lot of money, but they don't get enough funding. They may need 10 billion to survive, and they're getting, I don't know, let's just say 3 billion. There is a lot more that they need, both on the staff and also and also on the equipment and etc. Like even when I was there, they were outsourcing staff from Portugal and Ireland just to look after people on our ward. And I already knew from then on, and that was 5 years ago. Can you imagine? So I already knew from then on that it was going to be very problematic. Whereas in other countries, in the US, their nurses are very well paid, and if look, we have to kind of make our priorities. Do we want to have a free NHS for all, or do you want to pay nurses fairly? Because for me, at some stage, you're going to have to make the decision, the deciding factor. And what we could do right now is, especially early doors, is promote just a healthy living. And maybe, this is drastic for me, but maybe increase taxes on just alcohol companies. And because I think personally, if they are a big cause of the issues that are arising with the pressures of the NHS, if we increase the taxes from there, that could help out a considerable amount to the NHS personally, and also maybe have some tax benefits for people who want to get into the NHS in terms of nurses, doctors, etc. Maybe have during lockdown, it had first priority going into the shops.
Yes. The older
maybe
stuff.
Have that kind of incentive nowadays. There's numerous options they could choose, but ultimately it comes down to these are sort of like putting the plaster over an accident. At some stage, these issues are going to come about at a later date. A growing economy probably helps out as well. It helps out as well. If every person, let's say the economy is failing overall, you can increase as much taxes as you want. If it's a poor economy, it's a poor economy, and therefore people will have people's wages, and in comparison to the cost of living, it's not going to match up. So for me, those kind of things will work out. Tax subsidies for people who work for the NHS, and also maybe for those people who, let's just say, sugar companies or alcohol companies, or companies that are, that are deriving effects or health effects that will put pressure on the NHS, increase maybe their taxes. Those are a couple of things that I would suggest to help out in this period of time whilst the economy is growing back up after the lockdown.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. Off the Canvas Boxing, check out his channel, his YouTube page. He's learning from me. But yeah, he's a young brother who I've had the pleasure of meeting, dropping him home. He didn't even expect me to drop him home, but it's all about energy. I move of energy. I'm like, bro, where you going? Guys, where I drop with you? Peckham, innit?
Nah, literally local. I'm not far from you.
Where did I drop you again?
Local station. I say local station because
local. Yeah. Oh, bro. All right, cool. You're one of them ones. Me, yeah. I don't business. I don't care. No one can't come. Anyway, let me start. Yeah. But yeah, Off the Canvas Boxing does not want to reveal the destination just in case man rolls up on him, because we're still from parts of the end.
Keep it professional.
Yeah, it was great having you on the show. Thank you for your time. Appreciate your time. Appreciate your story, and appreciate your views. Excellent. Stay locked. If you can, listen to the comments, the closing thing on the show, or I always close with a positive note. So yeah, thank you, sir.
No problem. To catch you in a bit.
Yeah, good night, God bless. Delvinis, why would you want to wait till next time to talk about your nursing job? I've already told you, just come on the thing. I don't know why next time. And again, that is in line with how I'm going to finish. Daniel Bakar, guys, I wish I could tell people on my experience because it will open up people's eyes, but it's going to take a long time. That's all we got right now, bro. That's all we got right now. There is, again, you know what? I'm going to leave you for next week. But it won't be, next week will be another subject. So I don't know why you wouldn't want to talk about it now. Why you wouldn't want to talk about it now? But you see how this thing works? Let me show you how this thing works. Marcia, I don't know what happened to you. You was like, let's go, let's go, let's go. I don't know what happened. We was waiting for you. Me and Gary was waiting for you. It was like, Marcia's going to talk, give it, enlighten us. He just ducked out when you got the link. Teams, forget about Teams. It's not about Teams. It's about StreamYard, YouTube, straight onto YouTube. So video review says exposing man's ends. But I don't care. Listen, you're protected. It's either going to happen or it's not going to happen. If you live in fear, something is more likely to happen. Trust me. Trust me on that. Anyway, this is what I'm saying. All right, Marcy says she's studying today, but you're not studying. You're on here now. You're on here now. I don't know what kind of focus you're studying with. If you're on here writing comments and then you're not focused, you could be actually telling us your story or telling us, I have modules for Monday, but you're on here. You're typing. You took a break. So why didn't you talk in a break? But I can't with you lot today. I can't with you lot. Lifestyle said he made a good point. Yeah, he made it. Wait. You lot are starting again. He made a good point. But what about the people who still won't be able to afford private? Bottom line is they will suffer, and that's the reality. Well, listen. I don't want to say too much on that, but he's actually given a real good point. Well, that's again, they don't know. It's long. It's actually long to argue with me because that's one thing I could do. I could fight. Bro, trust Gary knows what time it is. But yeah, it's all love. Anyway, the reason why I said this thing is serious and how this is such a brilliant community that we have created here is I'm gonna read those two comments, on which is what I just said. Why is Daniel and that not coming in? And look at it's so in line of what I was gonna say. What are those two things by Daniel and Delvinis? All right, so here we go. So the first one was, listen to this. He said, Tunde, I don't mind next time talking about my nursing job. Well, bro, you're on this thing now. So why next time? There's no time like the present. Daniel says, guys, I wish I can tell people on my experience because it will open up people's eyes, but it's going to take a long time. Time again. We've got time. You're on here. You're typing. Talk. We just abbreviate your talk. I'll just say, all right, cool, Dan. You're going on a bit too long now. That's all that can happen. But I feel that people just sharing their experiences, it makes things, I don't know, it is reality, but I think it makes things more, what's the word? Plausible when people see a face along with the experience, as we just saw with OTC, as we just saw with Bobby Wright. But the reason why I said that I'm using this word time is because I will end the show or close the show this evening with these few words, and I'll tell you who said them after I finish. He said, "Change will not come if we wait for some other person." Take off that comment, please, Gary. I need the people to see what I go on. Sorry for the language. Sometimes I told you this is like a real show. Sometimes I morph into somebody different, but you know me, I'm like a chameleon. So anyway, we end the show. We close the show this evening with the final words of change will not come if we wait for some other person, or if we wait for some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. Ladies and gentlemen, and that was from Barack Obama. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a fantastic pleasure to have you all with me today. We've gone for over 1 hour and a half. Tune in next week. Next week's subject will be up on YouTube later. But it's been great and fantastic, and thank you for spending these precious moments in time with me. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me on Talk Time with Tunde, episode 4. Does the NHS work, and is it worth saving? Good night. God bless.